Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a big one, microplastics. You know those tiny, invisible particles that are turning up in some really unexpected places?
All right, let's jump right in. When I say plastic pollution, what comes to mind? Probably, oceans full of bottles, maybe giant landfills. But what if I told you scientists are finding it somewhere much, much closer to home? I mean, literally, inside of us.
Yeah, you heard that right. In our lungs. Recent studies have actually found these little plastic particles deep inside the lung tissue of living people. And we're not talking about some rare industrial accident. Nope, this is from the airborne particles that you and I are breathing in every single day.
And it doesn't stop there. For the first time ever, researchers have actually found and measured plastic particles in human blood. Now, this was a huge deal, a landmark discovery, because it proved these things aren't just getting stuck in one spot. They can actually travel all through our bodies.
And then there's this, which, honestly, is maybe the most startling discovery of all. Microplastics have been found in human placentas. I mean, just think about that for a second. It raises this whole new, urgent set of questions about being exposed to this stuff before we're even born.
Okay, so it's clear these tiny particles have gotten past our body's defenses. But how? To really get a grip on that, we kind of have to zoom out and see just how completely plastic has taken over our entire planet. So, first things first, what even are microplastics? Well, they're exactly what they sound like, tiny pieces of plastic. The official definition is anything less than 5 millimeters long, so think about the size of a sesame seed or even smaller. And they come from basically two places, either from bigger plastics like bags and bottles breaking down over time, or they're manufactured to be that small, like the little fibers that come off our clothes.
And this is where it gets kind of wild. Just look at how widespread this stuff is. We're not just talking about finding it in, urban areas. Scientists have found it literally falling from the sky in Arctic snow. They found it in animals living in the Mariana Trench. That's the deepest point on Earth. And it's in stuff we use every day, like table salt and bottled water. It's just everywhere. There's really no place left that's untouched.
Right, so if this stuff is absolutely everywhere in the environment, the big question is, how is it getting inside of us? And the answer, it turns out, is through things we do every single day.
And we're talking about a lot. I mean, just how much? Well, one big study back in 2019 estimated that a person could be consuming somewhere between 39,000 and 52,000 of these particles every year. And get this, that's just from a few common foods. The real number? It's probably way, way higher.
So how does it all get in? Well, scientists have pinpointed two main highways for this stuff to enter our bodies. First, ingestion. That's just eating and drinking it. And second, inhalation, breathing it in.
Let's talk about ingestion first. The sources are, well, all over the place. It's in seafood, especially things like mussels, because they filter a ton of water. It's been found in sea salt, and even in fruits and veggies that can pull it up from the soil. It's in our tap water, it's in bottled water, and yeah, even those plastic takeout containers can shed tiny particles right into your food. And then there's the air we breathe. You know that cozy fleece jacket you have? Or that synthetic carpet? Every time you wear it or walk on it, it's shedding these tiny plastic fibers into the air. And all those fibers end up in household dust, becoming a huge part of the air we're breathing inside our own homes, which, let's face it, is where most of us spend most of our time.
Okay, so this all brings us to the million-dollar question, right? So what? We know these particles are inside us, but what are they actually doing in there, if anything? That's really the next big frontier for scientists, moving from just finding them to figuring out the consequences.
And really, scientists are looking at a kind of double threat here. On one hand, you have the physical particle itself. I mean, these are tiny, sometimes sharp little foreign objects, and lab studies suggest they could cause physical damage to our cells, maybe trigger inflammation just by being there. But then there's the second threat, which is maybe even sneakier. These plastics can act like tiny little sponges or Trojan horses. They carry chemical additives from their manufacturing, things like BPA. And they can also soak up toxic pollutants from the environment and then potentially release all that stuff once they're inside our bodies.
Now, in animal studies, researchers are starting to see how this might play out. It's like a chain reaction. It begins with ingestion, which seems to mess with the delicate balance of the bacteria in the gut. That disruption can then lead to a weaker gut lining, which in turn can cause inflammation throughout the body, and that could trigger a whole cascade of other issues down the line.
Okay, and a really important point here. This research is on mice, not people, so we have to be careful. But what these findings do is give scientists a kind of roadmap for what to look for in humans. And what they're seeing in these animals is a whole range of potential problems. Things like damage to the gut, issues with liver function, reproductive problems, and even signs of inflammation in the brain that could be linked to cognitive issues.
So let's just take a step back. We've followed these invisible invaders all the way from the Arctic to our own blood. We've seen how they get into us through our everyday lives, and we've looked at the very first clues from the lab about the kind of harm they might be causing.
The thing is, the science here is still so new. The question of what all this means for human health, that is the critical unanswered question right now. Which leaves us with this one big final thought to chew on. We are the first generations in history to live our entire lives completely immersed in plastic. We are living in the plastic age, and we're just now starting to ask, what will that age do to us?